Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Es otra lección, es una lección muy importante porque hay muchos verbos. Hoy vamos a discutir las expresiones usando tener y verbos con cambios radicales. So, good afternoon. And today it's another lesson for you guys, a bunch of verbs that we're going to be having to learn, and we're going to be doing a lot of practice using these. Okay, it's expressions using the verb tener first of all, and then we're going to talk about stem changing verbs. So let's jump into tener expressions. All right, first thing, in Spanish we know that tener means to have. It's one of our go verbs because the yo form is tengo, and it's primarily used to tell what you and others have or what you possess. Okay, like when you say I have $10. Okay, but or however, like it says here, tener has a few other uses. It's used in several expressions that we would say differently in English. And those are called idiomatic expressions because they don't translate to the exact way we say it in English. So let's look at these expressions with tener, okay, and pay attention to them. Okay, so first of all, before we go into that, tener is a go verb and a stem changing verb. Here in a minute I'm going to talk about stem changing verbs. Okay? So first of all, tener means to have, and the yo form is yo tengo, so that's where it's a go verb. But it's also a stem changing verb. You got to remember that verbs have two parts. You have the ending, okay, er. You take that off, and everything here that's left, the ten, is the stem. Well, this e is going to change its spelling to ie in the other conjugations of tener, except for the yo and the nosotros form. So the tu form is tu tienes. Usted is tiene. The L and ella form is tiene. Nosotros does not stem change. It's because this ending has two extra syllables, so we don't have to stem change it. Nosotros tenemos. But in ustedes, we do it again. Ustedes tienen. Ellos and ellas tienen. All right, so that's how it works. So let's look at these expressions. Okay, so here we go. There's several tener expressions, and here they are. First, you have tener calor, and that means to be hot. So if you say yo tengo calor, you say I am hot. Literally, you're saying I have heat. We don't say it like that in English. We say I am hot. Okay? If you want to say I'm very hot, put a mucho right here. Right here. Yo tengo mucho calor, between the verb tener and calor. Tener frío, to be cold. You're literally saying to have coldness. Ella tiene frío. She is cold. All right, again, if we want to say she is very cold, put a mucho after tiene. Ella tiene mucho frío. Another one, tener hambre, is to be hungry. Los chicos tienen hambre. And if we said tienen mucha, it'd be mucha hambre, ending in an A. Okay, you'd say the boys are very hungry. Okay? So tener hambre is to be hungry. And then tener sed means to be thirsty. Jose tiene sed. Jose is thirsty. Or again, if you want to say very thirsty, Jose tiene mucha sed. He has a lot of thirst, or he's very thirsty. All right, some more expressions. Tener sueño means I am sleepy. Los estudiantes tienen sueño. The students are sleepy. Okay. Tener prisa, to be in a hurry. Señor Spore siempre tiene prisa, which would mean Mr. Spore is always in a hurry. Okay? And then tener blank años. This is where you'd put in the number. That means to be so many years old. So for example, Rafael tiene 15 años. So we're saying Rafael is 15 years old. We say somebody is so many years old. In Spanish, you say somebody has so many years, like Rafael has 15 years. And then probably the most important tener expression that we're going to be using is to take tener and conjugate it. Okay, follow it with the word que. Notice there's no accent mark here, so it's not the question word. And an infinitive, remember, an unconjugated form like hablar or comer or vivir. And that would mean to have to do something. It's used to express obligation. Like this, yo tengo que estudiar. So here's tener conjugated, tengo, followed by que. followed by the infinitive, because we need it to mean to study. And that means I have to study. Okay, los profesores tienen que trabajar. Conjugated form of tener, followed by que, followed by an infinitive. The teachers have to work. Nosotros tenemos que dormir. We have to sleep. Here's tener conjugated, followed by que, followed by the infinitive, because we need it to mean to sleep. Okay, so we use this a lot in Spanish too, to express your obligations, what you have to do. All right, now let's change gears and let's go into stem changing verbs. So in Spanish, there are several verbs that will change the spelling in their stems. A while ago I showed you with tener what the ending is and what the stem is. Okay, so you change their spelling when they're conjugated. These verbs are called stem changing verbs. So for example, venir, here's the ending. You take off the IR, what you're left with, VEN, is the stem. So if we were to put this in the tu form, okay, it becomes vienes. This E changed to IE. Well, why does that do that? The stem change happens because stress is placed on the E in venir when you try to conjugate it. When I try to add this ES ending, there's stress placed on this E. So it has to change its spelling, okay, in order to be easier to pronounce, because benes has stress. It's a little bit harder on your tongue. So bienes rolls a lot smoother. If we didn't make the stem change and we just left it in E, you would have to remember to put an accent mark there. It would require that, and we don't want to have to mess with that. Okay, so you have to change that E to IE, and there's others. So let's look what we're talking about here. There are three types of stem changing verbs. Okay, first you have verbs that change an E to an IE, like tener and venir. Then you have verbs that change an O in its stem to a UE, okay, like we learned with doler today. And then you have verbs that change an E just to an I. So some verbs change an E to an IE, some verbs change an E to an I. Oh my gosh, how am I going to remember? Number one, you got to memorize how they stem change, which verbs stem change and how they do it. And then here's a little hint with the E to I. These are always IR verbs, okay? No AR verbs or ER verbs that stem change do this kind of change. And then there's good old jugar, which means to play sports. It's a stem changing verb, but it changes this U to a UE, and it's the only verb to do this. A lot of times we take jugar and we just classify them with these verbs up here, the O to UE stem changing verbs, because it's similar. Okay, so let's look at E to IE stem changing verbs, and let's look at our verb, empezar. This verb changes the E in its stem to IE. Well, if we look from here back, from right here to here is its stem. Well, there's an E here and an E there. Oh my gosh, there's two E's. How do I know? It's always the vowel closest to the ending that stem changes. So this second E is closest to the ending. That's the one that stem changes. Now, empezar means to begin. So let's look at the forms of it. Okay, the yo form is yo empiezo. Okay, right there's the stem change. The tu form is tu empiezas. Usted empieza. We have the L and ella form is empieza. Now, nosotros empezamos. Notice here that the nosotros form did not change to an IE. That's because the stress that's placed on this E is removed because of the length of the amos ending here. So we don't need to stem change it. Then we have ustedes empiezan. Again, we go back to stem changing it. And then ellos and ellas form is empiezan. All right, so that's one verb. There's a few others, other E to IE stem changes. Guys, there's a lot of them. I'm only giving you small chunks of them right now. So one is entender. Again, there's two E's. It's the second E. This one means to understand. Pensar means to think or to plan. Preferir, again with two E's in its stem, so it's the second one, means to prefer, just like what it looks like. Querer, a very important one to know, means to want. Okay, yo quiero Taco Bell, you've heard that old commercial. Okay, tener, to have, that we've already discussed, but it's also a go verb. The yo form is tango. And venir, to come, another go verb. The yo form is vengo, but then it's a stem changer after that. Okay, now let's look O to UE stem changing verbs. So our example is poder, to be able. Guys, this is an important verb that we use a lot. You heard of the I can statements, yo puedo. That means I am able or I can. It's a stem changing verb. We changed the O to a UE. So let's look at its forms. Okay, yo puedo, tú puedes, usted puede. We have the él and ella form, which is puede. Nosotros podemos. Remember, we don't stem change in a nosotros form because of the ending. Ustedes pueden, ellos and ellas pueden. Okay, so the O's change to UE. Now let's look. Other O to UE stem changing verbs. Almorzar, which means to have lunch or to eat lunch. Almorzar. Costar, which means to cost. Guys, we only really use the el, ella form and the ellos and ellas form of this verb. Cuesta and cuestan. Because you usually don't say I cost something. Yo cuesto. Okay, and then dormir, to sleep. Okay, we use this verb some too. Dormir means to sleep. Okay, you change those O's to UE. Alright, and then the last type of stem changing verbs, an E that changes to an I. And remember what I said, they're always IR verbs that do this. Okay, so let's look at the forms of it. Yo pido. Okay, the E changes to an I. Pedir means to ask for or to order. Yo pido, I ask for. Tú pides, you ask for. Usted pide. Él and ella pide. Nosotros pedimos. Remember, we don't stem change right here. Okay, we leave it an E. Ustedes piden, and then ellos and ellas piden. Alright, so a few other E to I stem changing verbs. Servir, changes that E to an I. It means to serve. Repetir, again, there's two E's. It's the second E. Repetir, to repeat. And then an important one again is decir. It's one of our go verbs. The yo form is digo, but you stem change it E to I. Digo, dices, dice, decimos, dicen. Okay, because we use this verb a lot, and you'll see it a lot in your instructions. Guys, the important thing that you have to remember is you have to memorize what verbs are the stem changing verbs. How do those stem changing verbs stem change? Is it E to IE, O to U, or E to I? And then what do these verbs mean? Okay, so we have several of these that we're going to be learning. You have to do your part and memorize them. Okay, so go back, watch this again and again. Get these verbs memorized and how they stem change. Okay, and your life will be so much easier once you do. All right.